Welcome, everybody, to the American Space Museum. I'm Marquette. We're so glad you're with us today to stay curious. Friends all over the world, we're so grateful as we start our fourth year of Stay Curious broadcasts. We being my co-producer and friend, Marty Winkle. Marty, how are you today?
Doing good, Mark. How are you?
Well, good. We've been talking with a very interesting pilot, Heather Lammers, who's a Southwest Airlines pilot. She is here on the coast, and she had some pretty interesting autographs for the Apollo 11 guys, didn't she, Marty?
Yeah, she sure did. I wouldn't mind having those.
Yes, well, we're not going to tell her where she lives or anything like that, so you don't go rob her. But no, glad to have you here, Heather. How do you like our museum?
Thank you for having me. It's all very interesting stuff here.
Good.
I'm enjoying myself very much this afternoon.
Good. Well, we're enjoying you being here, and she wanted to sit in on Stay Curious here a little bit. And of course, we're all about you, the fans out there, and we are so grateful that we had our third birthday party yesterday, and we challenged some of you to maybe give us a tax deductible donation, and some of you have done that. And we're very grateful to here's Dave Stange, all right, there in the middle with his wife, gave us $100 donation overnight. Thank you, Dave Stange. And there's Larry Pushkar there at the end with his father-in-law. And they visited us a couple weeks ago on their vacation, and there they are at in our shuttle gallery at an actual console that fueled the external tanks. So friends like Dave Stange's watched us from the beginning. I can't say a bad word about him except that he lives in Michigan. So, but no, God bless you all and your wife for supporting our museum, and Larry Pushkar also, a Michigander up there, has been an awesome supporter of our museum. And we're getting the word out, and we're attracting some people that really want to help us. And today we met these people that left to right or right to left. On the right side is Rama, his wife Mal, in Baharat there beside me. They have a website that is called GoHistoryTravel.org, and they go around to places around the world and do travelogue posts, uh, uh, if you will, and we're going to promote them. They were so infatuated with our museum. They came to our astronaut memorial in January, and they donated a $1,000 check to the American Space Museum. That's why I got a big smile on my face there, because that will help us maybe in no small $100. We thank you, Dave Stange. That'll help us buy some new equipment to take us out on the road a little bit and do some remote shows there. But thank you, Rama, Mal, and Bharat. You're going to hear more about them, as of course we're going to promote their website. And he's been to some very interesting space sites, including in Wisconsin, he said, where Deke Slayton grew up and places like that. So you're going to look forward to some on the road travel stuff from Go History Travel in this group here that donated $1,000 to our American Space Museum and earmarked it for Stay Curious. So a way to do that is go to our website, and there's a donation button at the top. That'll take you to the place, and you can earmark it for whatever you want. Or go to our, let's see here, go to our Shuttle Fest site there that we've got the QR code for, and there's a donation button at the end of the shuttle registration. $15, 20 at the door, and we're offering 2 box lunches, a salad and a sandwich at $12. And we'll be picking momentum up on this next week and talking about the celebration of the base to space, the mobile launch platform number 2, that the Saturn V rocket for Apollo 11 was on it. The shuttle Columbia Challenger was on it, Columbia, very historic, and they dismantled it for scrap. There's a documentary on it. We're going to feature the wonderful artist Chris Calley and have a couple panels for you that we're going to elaborate on throughout next week's Stay Curious programs. Well, Marty, a bunch of no, fun to live here on the Space Coast. We're exactly 3 blocks away from where I took this photograph at about 11:43 this morning when SpaceX launched another Falcon 9 rocket. And the great blue heron there could care less. There's a couple other birds in there. But of course, the giant vehicle assembly building on the far left, that's what the Artemis gantry on the far left of the VAB there. And you're looking at the rocket lifting off pad 40. A beautiful launch, Marty, today. And you were there on your little two-wheeler going around there. I think it was this was noisier than the Falcon Heavy that we witnessed a couple months ago, in my mind, because the wind was blowing just right. That was a pretty noisy one today. What do you think?
Well, that's what I was going to say. It's the atmosphere, the direction of the wind. But it was a beautiful launch. The sky was so blue. It was just beautiful.
Yeah, and you can see it all the way up to stage separation and the ignition of the second stage. And, of course, that first stage landed in the Atlantic Ocean. They've done that over 175 times. This booster, this was its 10th trip to space. And talk about a revolution, rocket revolution. That's what's going on right now, thanks to Elon Musk and his SpaceX company. And soon you're going to be amazed at the new Glenn rocket of Blue Origin and Jeff Bezos. Hopefully they'll have a launch of that before the year's up. But I was not in the mood to get up in the morning, but our good friend Carlton Bailey was. Hey, CB, this is the launch of the Relativity 3D rocket. All right. And we call this in the launch business the Streak. All right. A long exposure with a very low ISO sensitivity and a high f-stop, like 22. And CB, great picture. I knew it wouldn't be very bright. I slept in. I'm sorry. I'd been a lot of morning meetings and I just couldn't stay up for this. But I noticed the colorization, Marty, is not like the streaks that I've shot, which are mostly orange. And you really see some rainbow as I don't know what kind of fuel he was using on this. Yes, I do. I think it's methane. Was burning, and a beautiful, beautiful kind of neon glow streak. And then Carlton had his long lens on there to see the exhaust of the rocket. I understand that it first stage worked beautifully, but the second stage did not ignite. There was some concern that pieces of that second stage may wash up onto the shores here at our beaches. So if you're a beach goer, don't touch it. Tell people to the nearest authorities, because it could have toxic chemicals on it. These are some very volatile chemicals to launch this rocket. But thank you, Carlton Bailey, for sharing that picture. And we're going to see a personalized autograph to Carlton here before the show's over. Well, yeah, Marty.
They met their prime objective. There's a big concern about getting through Max G. And that was successful.
Oh,
they met a lot of their objectives.
Okay, so they made their objective. Yeah, it was a dummy payload. I think it was just a weight payload. There was nothing lost financially except the pride that it didn't get into orbit. The world's first 3D printed rocket. I understand about over 90% of it was 3D printed. Yeah.
I meant Max Q, not Max G.
Oh yeah, he was saying Max G, and I didn't have a heart to correct him and say Max Q. Okay, Marty.
Well, I correct you.
We're having too good of a week. You corrected yourself as a true engineer would, and of course, Heather, we brag about Marty because he was an electrical engineer on the Grumman lunar module, and inside of all those ascent stages. That went to the moon, and of course Apollo 9 that orbited the Earth, and then he spent 30 years working on the great space shuttle main engines as a computer manager there. So Marty, thank you for correcting yourself there. But yeah, getting through Max Q, that was a good deal with a rocket that was made out of 3D printing. And I got to say that's one of the most astonishing things I've seen in the last certainly 20 years is 3D printing and memory. I managed a Ritz camera for 8 years in Bristol, Virginia, and we were selling cameras 10 years ago that had memory in them, 8 megabytes, 16 megabytes of memory. I was just talking to our IT guy. He wants to put a 2 terabyte memory in a computer, and the cost is $120 for 2 terabytes of a hard drive in a the upgraded computer. So the memory and then 3D printing. Wow. When they were first talking about making tools at the space station or something, I thought, yeah, right, that'll be, I'll never see that. And now whole rockets 3D printed, just an incredible advance as technology does. So, well, we wonder if some of you caught in the news this week that the Canadian Space Agency has changed their logo, all right? And they've got a good reason to change their logo. They want to get back in the 21st century. Great partners of the shuttle era, the Canadians. The Canadian company built the arm on the shuttle. And here is the new Canadian Space Agency logo, 3 stars, and of course the classic maple leaf for Canada. And why this is significant, because we're going to find out April 3rd, Marty, which is a week from Monday, which one of these Canadian astronauts is going to pull a ticket to ride the ride Artemis 2 to orbit the moon. Because Canada is going to have one of the 4 astronauts that are going to be named on Monday, April 3rd, as the Artemis 2 astronauts who get the joy of taking the Orion spacecraft and orbiting the moon. I don't know what the mission profile is, Marty. Have you heard? Are they going to stay there for a day or two? But who will it be? And you don't know who they are, so I'm going to tell you who they are. Jeremy Hansen is on the left there, and that's Sydney Gibbons on the left there. Joshua Kutrick is on the right, and David St. Jacques is on the far right. Now, I know David St. Jacques has flown, and I'm not sure if Kutrick has, and been a busy day collecting checks, folks. So I didn't have an opportunity to look up them like I wanted to. But who's it going to be? The first Canadian to have Canadian eyes look at the backside of the moon as it's orbiting in the Orion spacecraft. Well, think about that. And I think that's exciting. And 2 weeks from Monday, we'll know all about it. And we'll try to dig into it in a way that the normal media doesn't, for you all to stay curious. And as we're talking about Artemis, just kind of wanted to throw out there, these are the 9 women of Artemis, and one of them will be the first woman on the moon. And that name will be etched in history forever. And all of them have flown in space except for in the middle on the far right, Jasmine McGoley. She is going to be commander of Crew Dragon 7 that's going to launch in August. All right. Nicole Mann above her was the rookie commander of Crew Dragon 4 that just returned. And Marty, yes, I confirmed that their logo name is got the Marine colors because they are Marines. And the Marines do that on their blue suit, like no other thing in there. So though Nicole Mann, according to some people, and I'm not really talking to a lot of insiders yet, but Nicole Mann is really quite a commander, quite a success story, and could be the first woman to land on the moon. Stephanie Wilson is an experienced shuttle pilot there. Not pilot. She flew on 3 shuttle missions, I believe. In the middle, Christina Cook and Jessica Meir. They were on the International Space Station together and did 3 spacewalks together, touted as the first all-female spacewalks. And so all these exceptional ladies, of course, and who will it be? And I've got a bet with someone, it'll be Jessica Meir there in the middle. But who knows? And, we'll find out here after Artemis 3, or Artemis 2, because it's Artemis 3 that will be the moon landing. So, well, we love on the shuttle world here. We got 3 astronaut birthdays to talk about. So hang there with me as we talk a little bit about Shuttles of March. Marty, we've had so many guests this month that we haven't talked a whole lot about the 10 Shuttles of March. I want to grab my uh, notes over here. So 10 shuttles of March. Only Challenger didn't fly. Of course, it only had 10 missions. 8 women out of the 59 total passengers that went to space in the month of March. And I'm going to feature those women next week, as we still have time for Women's Month to feature some of the outstanding women. But as you see these patches, you see Nancy Curie, Tamara Jernigan, Wendy Lawrence, Marcia Ivins, Susan Helms, Shannon Lucid, Linda Godwin, and Kathy Sullivan all had orbiting the Earth in the month of March. And we're going to tell you a little bit about those ladies next week on Stay Curious, as I haven't had a whole lot of time to share the shuttles of the month. But one that we did want to not sneak by us here, the STS-3, March 22nd, 1982, and then it landed on this date in 1982. This was, of course, the the third mission. It was still a experimental shakedown of the spacecraft, as I'm looking for some notes on it. But it had Jack Lousma and Gordon Fullerton. Gordon has passed away. Jack Lousma will be on the Space Coast here March 30th. Till April 2nd out at the Astronaut Encounter. And I've had the good pleasure of meeting Mr. Lousma, thanks to Marty Winkle here, as Marty was chairman of the Grumman Group, and Lousma's always supported the Grumman because he was backup on Apollo 13, right, Marty?
He was Capcom.
Oh, that's right. He was the Capcom.
He was Capcom when he had the accident.
And when famously said we've had a problem there. Can you say a few words about Jack Lousma here and what a great guy he is? And how much he's done for you over the years?
Yeah, I think you said it. He is a great guy. He's so easygoing. He's like a lot of the astronauts you talk about. You wouldn't know they were an astronaut. There's no airs or anything. Really nice guy.
And he was certainly friendly to me, and we got to break bread with him at Zorella's, and Marty will see what he's up to this time. I've got his email, need to communicate with him. But there's why we know him so well. There's Mark Usiak in 1982, a youthful Usiak there, freezing to death, and he is at the New Mexico White Sands Air Base, where the one and only shuttle STS-3 landed. It was needed to come back, and Edwards Air Force Base, they had 1 day wave around, and then, it was the third flight, so they wanted to get it back. Things might go wrong, and Edwards Air Force Base was flooded, so they actually had to land at White Sands in 1982, and until its demise in 2003, there was still sand coming out of the orbiter Columbia. All the workers talk about it in the OPFs, and when it got to space, I don't care where they were, there was a grain of sand maybe come out in 0G from somewhere from this landing out there. It was horrible, and it really damaged the underbelly and stuff like that. There it is, Mark Usiak's photo of it, reliving that memory for you there, buddy, as it actually landed on March 30th. 1982, so it was an 8-day flight with just Fullerton and Lousma up there, and wish Fullerton a great astronaut. Both these guys were part of the approach and landing test too. So there's our shuttles of March in there. Got a Hubble repair mission up there, and the first visit to the Mir Space Station, dropping off Shannon Lucid. And we'll talk about the women of the shuttle and some other women, I promise you, as we end Women's Month on a high note on Stay Curious. Well, we got some birthdays. Looking around for my birthday hat. Didn't put the birthday mem in there. But this is Mr. Reitler. Kenneth Stanley Reitler Jr. was born March 24th, 1951 in Patuxent River, Maryland, but considers Virginia Beach, Virginia to be his hometown. He was a pilot, Marty, of STS-48 and STS-60, spending 14 days in space. There he is in his pumpkin suit. I would be curious to know why he didn't continue on after 60. which is I consult my scroll here, quickly see what year 60 was. I got my shuttle scroll here, Heather. Um, February 94. So he could have flown, and usually you're twice a pilot and then you're a commander. All right. Of course, the commander does all the piloting, and they just didn't want to call anyone a co-pilot, which is what the pilot really was, and the commander really flew. But 60 was Bolden's last flight, and Reitler was they took Krikalev up for the first time too, the Russian. But anyway, Reitler was 2 missions. He's a graduate of Bayside High School in Virginia Beach. He appeared on Barney and Friends home video, Barney in Outer Space, and the film To Be an Astronaut. And Reitler was a technical advisor on the Apollo 13 movie. And a Navy guy, of course, he's out there sailing all he can. So he's a 73 graduate of the U.S. Naval Academy. So happy 71st or 72nd birthday it would be to Ken Reitler, space shuttle pilot. And here's a guy hooking a surfboard and hanging 10, Dr. Scott J. Horowitz, okay? And Dr. J is, they called him Doc, 66 years old today, born March 24th, 1957 in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. But he grew up 2,000 miles away in Thousand Oaks, California. Selected as an astronaut in 92, he was a pilot of STS-75 in 1996 and STS-82 in 1997, and he and a pilot in STS-101. And so he's a pilot 3 times, and then he commanded 105 of visiting International Space Station in 2001. I always thought being a 2001 in space would have been a cool thing because how crazy we were about the movie 2001 Space Odyssey. There he is in the M113 tank, the training tank that was to save the astronauts and get them away from the shuttle potentially blowing up. And there's Ken Reitler or Scott Horowitz in space. He's retired U.S. Air Force. And he's been active in advocating the trips to Mars, all right. On one of his space shuttle flights as the commander of 105, he had the Mars Society Martian flag hoisted on a mast outside the shuttle bay. And he said he was flying the shuttle under the flag of Mars. And he later presented that flag to Robert Zubrin at a conference of the Mars Society, and Zubrin's the founder of that. He's also a big supporter of disabled American veterans. God bless you for doing that. And here's his personal signature to Carlton Bailey, our rocket photographer on site. Says to Carlton, thanks for the great pictures. And Carlton worked at one of the which one did he work at, Marty? CVS or the other one? He'll tell us. He would take pictures of the night launches and be processing them, and maybe the wives of one of the astronauts would come in because she's staying there at the hotel nearby, and he'd lay these pictures on them for them to do there. So a great guy, Carlton. Keith Sewell's watching. He's up there in the west part of our country, enjoying his retirement. Tom Usiak's in Pennsylvania. Doug Forrest, thank you for watching. Ophelia Sauterelles in Normandy, France. Hazel Banks is one of our local supporters here. Dave Stange, thank you again, Dave, for the 100 C note there. We're going to spend it wisely. It joins with us the USIAC microphone that Marty talks on there. And Tom Celentano's watching. Deborah Johnson, thank you for watching. And Mark Usiak enjoyed looking at himself 40 years ago or more out there at the White Sands out there. So Marty, thank you for the list there. We got one other birthday to take care of here. And we got to wish a happy birthday to old Shaky. That's the nickname of Mr. Jim Lovell, who will be 95 years old on tomorrow, Saturday, born March 25th, 1928 in Cleveland, Ohio, one of the great Ohio Knots. course, I was born in Findlay, Ohio, about 2 hours east or west of Cleveland, but below Toledo there. He's the only child, okay, and of course, he had some of the most important missions in the moon race. Gemini 7 was a 14-day test of man's endurance with his best friend, Frank Borman, who turned 95 2 weeks ago. So the two best buddies that flew together 14 days in the front seat of a Volkswagen, basically, on Gemini 7 in 1965. And then they spent 10 days together orbiting, going to the moon on Apollo 8 and winning the moon race without landing, no doubt. Christmas Eve, 1968. I'll never forget that. And then, of course, the fateful Apollo 13 mission. Nicknamed Shaky, a crater on the far side of the moon was named for Lovell in his honor. There he is in later years. Larry Pushkar's walking. Carlton worked at CVS. I knew we'd hear from that. And Carlton had a lot of fun at CVS, including one time, I forget which astronaut. He's told the story. The astronaut came in and had just landed, and Carlton photographed the landing. And Carlton said, if I didn't know any better, I'd know that astronauts that you couldn't be such and such astronaut because they wouldn't let you off the Cape because they just came back from space. And the astronaut said to CB, well, they don't know everything that astronauts do all the time. And I forget, you don't have time to tell me, CB, but we'll relive that another day. But there is the great Frank Borman, and there he is with his best buddy, Jim. There is Jim Lovell, okay, in his home a few years ago, and there's the two buddies at an air show. There, Jim Lovell on the left and Frank Borman on the right. Both 95 years old. The pair are the oldest living human beings to ever travel to space. And we have a tribute to Jim Lovell out there at Space View Park. The flowers were left there because of his birthday one year. And there's his handprints. We have over 30 astronaut handprints in bronze at our beautiful Space View Park, just a few miles away from, a few blocks away from where Marty and I are sitting here in our palatial Stay Curious Studios inside the American Space Museum. Well, one final note, folks. I like ending every week with thinking about the 7 human beings that are orbiting our International Space Station. We have on there Expedition 69 up there, and these includes these astronauts from the Crew 6 Dragon. Left to right there is the Sultan, Al-Nadeya. I've got a Sultan in space. There's Warren Woody Hoberg. And beside Woody is the Russian Andrei Fedorov. No, that's Steve Bowen in the center there. And Andrei Fedorov, the Russian on the right. And they don't have a picture. I looked all over the internet for the Expedition 69 crew that includes 3 more people on there: Frank Rubio, Sergei Popakov, and Dmitry Petrolin. So we've got 3 Russians, 3 Americans, and a Sultan in space. Comment, Marty. Expedition 69 logo right there, in case you're needing it.
Yeah, Carlton said it was Kent Rominger.
Kent Rominger was the astronaut that he was looking at, that had landed on his spaceship literally hours before. And I think that's so cool how Carlton said, if I didn't know any better and know that astronauts can't leave the base, I'd say that you're Kent Rominger. And Rominger says, well, they don't know everything about us. So the behind the scenes of Carlton Bailey's life, we love it, and that's why we have wonderful friends like many of you out there sharing your stories, because you're not going to get them anywhere else, right, Marty?
Right.
There's our beautiful exterior of our American Space Museum, as it was 3 years ago, with the sign saying we are closed because of the COVID pandemic. So we couldn't be happier to be celebrating 3 years and having you on board with us as we just completed, Marty, episode 780. And I think I've missed 3 or 4. You may have missed 3 or 4. We had Bart, Bart did a great job for a couple of them. Bart Martindale on there, and I did several of them remote uh, when I had COVID. So we are so blessed, and thank you, thank you, thank you. If you have it in your heart to give a tax deductible donation, we will gratefully take it and put it to good use to improve our broadcast to you. So, Marty, we have anything to clean up on our Streamlabs production today?
No, Mark, we're good.
Well, thank you, thank you. We appreciate Heather Lammers, a real airline pilot, being in the building here today with us. Thank you. Hope you enjoyed that, Heather, and tell your other friends that fly the friendly skies that we throw this out in cyberspace every Monday through Friday, all because our American space geeks out there around the world, not American space geeks, because they love hearing about shuttle history, astronaut birthdays, and some of the crazy things that Marty and I come up with. So thank you all very much. We've had a great week and off to a great start for our 4th year of broadcasting Stay Curious. Until then, we want to wish everybody have a great weekend, and I hope to see you in our museum soon to bridge the space between us.